And that's because I'm moderating, which not everybody may know.
And then I would also advise everybody to turn off their cameras. Otherwise, we're going to have 34 pictures up there.
And so far, I see nothing coming into the chat. All right. It's 7 o'clock, so we will begin the town hall meeting. I'm Lou Marcellus, editor of the Sentinel. I was asked to moderate this event. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. A few ground rules before we get started. First of all, as Jake just mentioned, if you've got questions, please enter them into the chat, but be sure it's addressed to me, because I'm the only one who'll be able to see the questions, and because I'm moderating, that's how I'll guide the conversation. It is meant to be a conversation as well as a question and answer period. Let me make it clear that because of potential or current litigation, certain topics will not be allowed to be addressed in this session, and those are the under canvas, the death in the jail, the inmate who is recently, the recent story that ran about an inmate treated at KVH, and the appeal of the Snowden rezone. Those topics will not be addressed tonight, just FYI. So, and I'm still not seeing any messages in the chat. So again, keep in mind that okay, there is one coming in now. So let me start with a question that came in previous to the meeting here. And each question, by the way, will go to all three commissioners. They'll each have a turn to address the questions. There could be follow-up conversation. I may direct the conversation in a follow-up way, or there may be follow-up questions that you have as well. So let's begin with this one. And I'm not identifying the sources, so just the questions. When will the EOZ be eliminated and restructured as an energy zone and include large-scale solar requirements which protect the safety, health, and welfare of all the people? And Dan, why don't we start with you?
Lucky me. So it is something that I do believe we need to look at, but it is a much larger discussion and a much more time-consuming discussion. And we can address some of those things through the planning and through the comp plan, which is severely outdated. All of our critical area ordinance, shoreline management plan, comp plan, EOZ, if we get into it, are all going to have to go before the planning commission. And they're the ones that work through those and then make a presentation to the Board of County Commissioners. Currently, they're working on the SMP and the CAO, and hopefully soon the comp plan. And then hopefully when they're done with that, I would like to see them working on some side regulations, setbacks, battery storage, things like that, that we can even take up and adopt as policy, just like the ban in solar in the valley. That can be its own standalone, so that when we do get the comp plan or update the EOZ, it can just be implemented into what's created.
Dan, could I ask you to go back and clarify a couple of terms that you acronyms that you use in case people don't know what those are?
CAO, Critical Areas Ordinance, SMP, Shoreline Management Plan, comp plan, and EOZ is Energy Overlay Zone.
Okay. Lori?
Sure. And I can stand behind what Mr. Christopher just said. One thing I could add to that is that looking at the shoreline management plan, the critical area ordinance, our comp plan, the EOZ, they're all entangled. And so when we actually plan on one of them, they have elements in each one of those that we're finalizing and getting done that will add to the next one. So as we're moving forward, we're actually putting together parts and pieces to speed the light and get us ahead on finalizing a new comp plan. So I feel like we are making progress every month, and the Planning Commission's doing a great job. I really appreciate them.
Do you have any sense of a timeline for this process?
I do not. That all depends on the work and the work they can get done. We're also looking at agencies that have to oversee these or look into them and see what other work they might require us to do. Potential appeals in the end product of a document might happen. That would slow us up again.
Okay.
So it's a process.
Right. Jake?
Thank you, Lou. And thank you for the 55 people that are online for our first online town hall.
Yeah.
With regards to the EOZ and trying to unpack that and where that comes from, everything starts with the comprehensive plan. And that hasn't been like a full update since about 1977. We've updated it here and there, small pieces of it, but that sets your real policies and goals for the county. If you want to just rescind the EOZ, you're going to have to change the comp plan, because the comp plan in it supports renewable energy throughout the county. And so we would have to make those changes first before we really start working on the EOZ. That would be my goal. But again, we also have, like Commissioner Christopher and Commissioner Zoller was saying, the Shoreline Master Program and the Critical Areas Ordinance are required to be updated on a rolling cycle. We have to get through those and before we get to doing the things that we'd like to see done. The comp plan is supposed to be updated every 10 years as well. We're not required to, because we're not a fully planning county, but that's the direction that it needs to go. We just brought on a new planning director who I can say all three of us are really excited about, and he's doing a great job so far. So he's getting his feet underneath him. And so hopefully we just had a conversation today that he is going to start working on that comp plan update internally with staff prior to sending it to the Planning Commission. So we are making progress.
And who is that, just so people have the name in mind?
That's Scott Edelman.
Okay. You said it hasn't been updated since 1977. Did I hear you say? And I believe
That was when it was originally written. It has not been like you start from scratch and redo it like a lot of comp plans do. It's only been minor updates and tweaks. Most people think of the comp plan as the zoning, but the actual zoning is usually through sub-area plans. The comp plan is, what are your goals? What are your policies? What are your priorities? And that's where, it's usually a long process involving lots of community stakeholder input to try to drill down what, the county-wide goals and policies are.
Okay. I'm seeing some of the questions come in, and it reminds me that I need to remind people of the guidelines for off-limit topics for reasons of potential litigation. I'll repeat them again for the people who are just coming in, because I do see a couple of questions related to those topics. Off limits for this conversation are anything about the jail death or the inmate who was treated at KBH, that story, which, by the way, we will have a major story on tomorrow, and the appeal of the Snowden rezone. Those topics will not be addressed in this meeting, so please don't put those questions in. So let's go to some of the questions that are coming into the chat. There are a lot coming in now. Here's one that's talked about a lot lately. Can we get an update on well, this may be a city matter now that I think of it, but you can tell me. Can we get an update on the dog shelter that the state provided some funding for? I believe they're referring to the animal shelter for Goldendale, city of Goldendale. So am I correct in understanding that's not a county matter?
So that grant, sorry, I'm just going to jump in.
Jump in, sure.
Wanted to. That grant came through the sheriff's department, not the city. We are supposed to be getting an update. The BOCC is supposed to be getting an update this month or next month on where they are at on that. That grant was not something that the BOCC agreed to that we even knew about before it came. I personally have concerns about who's going to operate it, where are the dollars coming from for the operations of it, and is it going to be a dog shelter or is it just going to be for dangerous dogs? The grant, the dollars don't go very far when you're trying to build something these days. So we don't know a whole lot more than that unless my seatmates have had conversations with the sheriff's office.
What was that about for those funds that came from the state? The amount of money?
Lori, do you, or Dan,
I
do you
believe,
guys recall
I
exactly
believe
what
it
it was?
was it 600,000?
Roughly 600, I believe, and I think it was a legislative appropriation through Mossbrooker's office.
Yeah.
That was my understanding, that it came through her office. That's a lot of money for, I mean, who knows what a shelter actually costs to get started. So, as we speak, there is no clear plan for what to do with that. And is the money in hand at the county now?
Well,
Anybody?
I can't answer, maybe the seatmates could answer if the money's in hand, but I can answer that one of our concerns and our questions is to come forward with, once they have a design and an idea of what they want to do, we can build it, but then it's funding it after the fact too. We have to have that plan in place. We can't build something and then not be able to fund it.
If there, and again, for any of the commissioners, if there were, to follow up on that, if there were no feasible plan that could be arrived at a consensus arrived at, determine a best outcome for its use. Any of the three of you?
My screen froze, so I missed
Mine
your
too.
statement.
Okay. Sorry about. Okay, so if the county can't discern, can't make a clear sense, a clear decision on the best use of the money and how it's going to work and sustainability for the future, what happens with that money after a certain period of time? Does it just stay in the county's coffers, or
I can answer that.
I
if you'd like,
don't
Chris.
believe any of the money is in the county hoppers. It's in the legislators' hopper. We haven't taken it yet.
Yeah.
So it would just go back and stay in their hopper.
okay,
We don't know much about the dog shelter, but they were trying to build a big elaborate dog shelter, which again, 600,000 these days building things doesn't get you much. If I remember right, reading the agreement, you have to keep the shelter open for 10 years if you accept the money. So as my seatmate said, you have to come up with operations and maintenance money. How does that work? How is the public involved? Is it a kill shelter? Is it not a kill shelter? Is it for all the dogs running around Goldendale? And how many cubicles do you have in there? And so I think this dog shelter group, from my understanding from our updates, has been looking at, well, what's it take to build a 30 dog shelter? And then, whoops, we don't have enough money. So now they're just kind of talking dangerous dog shelter. But for me, there are no county resources. So if we were going to do something, unless they can figure out operation and maintenance, which they were talking about a nonprofit maybe coming up with operation and maintenance, but nonprofits are never a guarantee on whether you're going to get continued funding stream. So for me, again, I don't have all the information, but what I would need to do is ask the people, do you want to fund this, and do you want to pay the operation and maintenance on this going forward? And if that's the case, it gets to be, for me, a tax, a levy on the ballot on whether people want to fund and run the operation and maintenance of a dog shelter. And this is what it's going to cost for the next 10 years, and a yes or no vote on a ballot for me.
okay. Any other comment on that before we move on? All right. So another question. Is county well monitoring program continuing, and are data available to the public related to that? And Lori, why don't we start with you?
County well monitoring, in my understanding, Mr. Anderson will have more on this, has stalled now. We have to pick it back up and get busy with it again. We have a new person for the natural resource department, which I believe that will fall to him. And as we move him through understanding everything he's handling now through salmon recovery and the Governor's Salmon Recovery Team project will fall to him. He will then move into the well monitoring again. I believe there is some data available from past well monitoring they've done. I know that Department of Ecology has a fairly big system that's accessible through DOE called a RATS program. It's WRAT, that you can look things up on the internet. But for an up-to-date, I would pass this one to Mr. Anderson.
Okay, let's
Thank
go
you,
to you.
Commissioner Fuller. I had a meeting today with Keaton Curtis, our new both economic and natural resources department staff. They are going to be sending out letters within the next week to because we missed a year because we didn't have a natural resources program, to all the people on the well monitoring network so that we can get in there and hopefully start in early April with another round of well monitoring. We do well monitoring in the spring and also in the fall so that we can see the amount of decline and then the recharge over the winter time. And we do have a lot of that information that Aspect Consulting back in the past when we had grants to do well monitoring put together for certain sub areas within the county. We have the rest of just the wells. You won't know where it's at because of the privileged information. They're just well numbers, so that you can't tie one person's well with anything else. What are we doing?
I don't know. Oh, there it goes.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Don't know what that was. So we do have, we continue to have all of the information. And one of the projects that I was speaking with Mr. Curtis was about creating a visual of that because he's got a statistics background. And so that we could see through, within sub hucks, so pretty much watersheds, how the wells over the course since we started, I think in 2012, have done and where we're seeing issues. The main place that we saw issues that the Board of County Commissioners took and actual made changes at the local level was a small area in High Prairie, about a square mile, that was, in a broken aquifer that we were seeing major declines. We've got a couple potential issues throughout the county that we've been watching, primarily the east end of the county where they are water mining and have been for many decades with the large scale agriculture out there in the Horse Heavens. But other than that, most of the wells within Klickitat County, I ran that monitoring program for 5 years, and they would all between fall and spring, the wells would come back up each year.
Okay. Dan, did you want to address that?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Not much I would add other than I do believe we need to, yes, we did not have it running because we didn't have a natural resource person, and we'll be back up to that. But I would also say we need to look at ramping it up even. Because if we're going to get into the comp plan and sub area plans and where we want development, or do we want 20-acre minimums or drop it down to 5-acre minimums for building, we better know how much water is in that aquifer. Water is the new gold out there, and we need to know what we have under us before we plan and tell people that you can build or can't build, because there are new locations popping up where people are having trouble with their neighbors' wells per se, and we may not have been monitoring that area in the past, but we need to start monitoring it today, so that we can get a better comprehensive layout of where our aquifers are, how much water is in them, and what problems we have, so we can adjust the comp plan and sub-area plans accordingly.
Okay. And any sense of timeline on that process?
What, like Commissioner Answers said, it's already started. It's just a matter of how great of data do we want to collect and have ready for the Planning Commission when they go through their comp plan and sub-area plans, which is going to take years. It's going to be, that comp plan will not probably be done in the next 2 years, even if we started today.
Okay. So there are actually quite a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to pick up the pace a little here. And one way to do that is we have multiple questions on the state of childcare in the county, so I'm going to roll that into what's the state of childcare concerns in any regard in the county. And we have not started with Jake. Would you like to start on that?
So I haven't served on the Child Care Committee. I know that Commissioner Christopher has spent time on it. I know Lori has been working on it diligently. It hasn't been one of the committees that I've been working on. We all are very aware of child care. We all know the issues related to it. We have had the Small Business Development Center person from WSU work on a business plan so that, you know, who actually did childcare. And the issue, it's much like the dog shelter. We could build it, but you can't make it an affordable way of managing it without, you know, subsidization. And the county doesn't currently have the dollars in order to subsidize childcare throughout the county. And that's one of our biggest issues moving forward. But I would definitely leave my other two seatmates to fill in the gaps on that
Yeah,
one.
I will go like 30 seconds add to that. We did get an update on what it would take for the county to run a county child care center for county employees, and we had about 41 employees that might use the service. And after drawing up the business model, using the old public works building that we could use for free, it was still going to have to be subsidized somewhere around $500,000 to $600,000 a year for 41 kids. So because of state law and the binder that's this thick on how you have to operate a childcare facility, including what color drapes you're allowed to have. So it's true. And you're not allowed grass because grass hurts kids on a playground now. So you can't have grass and you got to take the grass out. It's just overregulated. So again, that comes down to if the county taxpayers want to fund that program, it's going to be a big heist. It's going to be a big lift and it's going to be a lot of tax dollars. And I don't know that the majority of the public feels a need. So WAGAP is working on it. Commissioner Zoller will have an update for what the local college is doing. So I will turn it over to her and let her do.
And before you pick that up, Lori, I did want to interject. So we ran a story recently about a facility, I believe, near White Salmon or in White Salmon for childcare. Am I remembering this correctly?
I think it's in the Dells, Lou.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's
The county was involved with that somehow, wasn't it?
We're not, but they're considering it. I sat with them about a week ago, and they're considering it a regional effort.
Okay.
Because we are all so close, and it's actually going to be centrally located in the Dalles in an abandoned school that they're refurbishing. Chenoweth School that has been open and available for a long time that needs a lot of work. They've really garnered a lot of money. They have their plans moving and they have high hopes for like 2025, 2026, right in there to actually get the facility going. It would serve, I believe, if I remember right, up to 250 children. And it's
Wow.
early education and daycare and locally accessible to people on this side of the river because you can just shoot across the bridge down the highway and out to Chenoweth and back out. So they have hopes that it will help us. One of the things that I asked them to commit to was we need another one on this side. So when they get through with that one, I hope that we can keep their effort going and have them help us on this side create that. Short of that, we still need something done before then, maybe on a smaller scale. There are a lot of different groups like WAGAP and our child care groups that are working very diligently on a big push. And a lot of that has been towards the state. We need state regulations loosened up so that we can build facilities, so that we can take care of children in a reasonable way without overregulation that runs these child care facilities out of business. The other thing is, like Chris Corey, they're a champion for us for child care and for money at the state level, which is going to help us. It is going to cost a lot, but it's something that's not a nicety, it's an absolute necessity for good workers, healthy families. We need childcare.
Okay. So next question is about Republic Services, and this says, when the Republic Services contract is up for renewal, will the county initiate a request for competitive proposals? And Dan, why don't we start off with you again?
The Republic contract is never on a term for automatic renewals. It is a forever document. That landfill has enough airspace to get another 90 years. So I guess in 90 years, it might be something to be considered. Now, if both parties agree to a contract change, they can enter into negotiations to change the terms of the contract. But it is not anything like, hey, next year it's coming up to bid and we're going to go out to the general public and take bids, and maybe it's now owned by Waste Management type of scenario. That's not the way the contract is written.
Okay.
And to add to that, if I may, you know, the transfer stations are run by Republic. And those transfer stations, you know, most people saw the fees go up. Those are in the negotiations when we do renegotiate with Republic over tipping fees and everything. That is a part of that negotiation. Just so everybody is clear, though, when you go to the transfer station, you are not paying for getting rid of your trash. You're only paying for hauling it to the landfill. It's actually free. If you go to Skamania County or anywhere else, look at how much they charge per ton versus how much we charge when we go to the transfer stations.
Correct. The trash and recycling in this county is free, and that's stated in the contract. You're only paying a handling fee.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to that, Lori?
No, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Can the commissioners summarize the language of the proposed STR short-term rentals ordinance and the status of approving a county ordinance for short-term rentals? He says, I'm specifically concerned, he or she, specifically concerned about Airbnbs in rural residential areas. Lori, why don't we start with you?
We have a pretty lengthy document. I don't know how to summarize that very quickly. That has been worked on before I even came on board. Currently, it is stalled out. There's some differences in moving forward in different requirements that, between Mr. Christopher and I, actually, because Mr. Anderson is recused from working on the document or talking about the document because of his ownership in an STR. So right now, unless those differences are somehow resolved, it's in a holding pattern as far as I see it. I'm not quite sure when it will ever come out.
Yeah. Can you speak to the issues behind the log jam?
I'm going to let Mr. Christopher do that so that I don't get it wrong for
Okay.
him. But it was a very thoughtful document. You know, it took into accord safety, health, welfare, fire extinguishers, all the things that would make a overnight accommodation safe for habitation. So other than that, I'll let Mr. Christopher speak to where he's at with the STR ordinance.
Dan?
Well, saying this in the nicest possible way I can, I am running up against moral and ethical roadblocks because of the conflict of interest and what I personally deem as getting involved in the process, even though you've recused yourself and you should probably not even be in the room when we discuss the issue, let alone talk to directors, talk to other elected or other commissioners about what you would like to see. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. I believe there was some discussions that should not have taken place. And I think they
I'm gonna interrupt you here, please. I'd rather keep the focus on track of what can be done in a positive direction at this point.
Yeah, essentially where we're at now is I have a difference of opinion than Commissioner Zoller on how we should regulate. I believe, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, she wants to grandfather in all the ones that are currently operating.
So the issues are in the commission, you're saying?
The issues are between me and Commissioner Zoller on what we can agree to, how we want the ordinance written. I believe that the driveway in needs to be emergency access so fire can get in. If there's an emergency, an ambulance can get in. There should be a minimum standard of a 14-foot driveway so you can get a fire truck in. So I would say if my concerns could be addressed and her concerns can be addressed and we can reach consensus, then it may pass. But currently there is a I don't believe that everybody should be grandfathered in because like whoever asked the question has a issue with Airbnbs, more than likely close to white salmon. I've heard that complaint a lot. And I think there needs to be a lot more public input on, we need to know where all these are and maybe grandfather them in slowly so we're not lumping 500 of them all in one spot. Some of these are currently houses. Some of them are currently tree houses. There's a tree house short-term rental out here in Goldendale. Do we allow only houses or do we allow tree houses as well? Do we allow yurts? Well, we allow under canvas, so why don't we allow yurts? So those are the conversations where the current policy is houses only. And I don't quite understand that.
So I'm not sure it's well, I think in order to keep the focus on this as a town hall meeting, I'm not going to get into the differences between commissioners, except to say that if it's a deadlock between two, I'm not sure how that tie gets broken, but we'll come back to that on another occasion. So a question here is, when will the commissioner districts be reviewed and or redrawn? Is that even a possibility? That is,
I can go forward on that one first.
Okay, go ahead.
When we had our essentially redistricting, you might say a couple years ago, I would like to see them redistricted, but to do so, you would have to actually move voter precincts around as well. It's a much more detailed job. This is all the job in the auditor's office, not the Board of Commissioners. We just approve said thing. And they did not have that information ready to go to be able to do that during the census when it needed to be ready to go.
They means, I'm sorry?
The auditor's office.
Okay,
because of the change in elected officials that were in the auditor's office versus who's now in the auditor's office. I do believe the current auditor is more than willing to work on that and get it done before the next 10-year requirement of when it should be done. So that might be a good discussion if my seatmates are interested when she comes in, to maybe ask her if she's willing to move forward on that early. I'm more than willing.
When did that 10-year window start?
It just happened a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Oh.
So
Okay. Lori, did you want to address that?
No, I don't have much to add, Dan. We did recently, it was not popular in some places. There was some questions about where the lines in the Trout Lake area, why they were there, where they were there. It's all based off of population. It did come out of the auditor's office. So any more than that, I would leave it with Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect these to change until the next census. I think for the public, what the public cares about would be the court rather than the legislative body just amended the voting districts in Klickitat County for state legislature, and Klickitat County was just split in two in essence. So that Ms. Mossbrecker and Mr. Corey are not going to be our representatives in essence over that area. And this just came out. We just got an email about it today. This is hopefully going to be a big story for the newspaper that a judge is making changes to what has been done, and it will have a large impact. I look forward to talking with the auditor very soon about this. This is going to be a big change. From my perspective, we're going to have major impacts. Being that Senator King is now not going to be the senator for the Hood River Bridge, and Senator King brought $75 million to the Hood River Bridge. This is a big change and a big deal, and it goes to show how important the districting really comes down to.
And
I would agree. And Lou, I would advise you to look at those maps too, and maybe look at a story, because I'm not going to call gerrymandering, but if you look at the way the commissioner district or the legislative district is now drawn, it sweeps up Mrs. Maryhill, pokes out through Goldendale, sucks in Miss Mossbrooker's house, and goes back out.
It's bizarre, and we do have a story
so
on it.
So it's very interesting how those go. So yeah, now we are going to be ruled by completely different people that may not even live here.
if it stands.
Well, the judge ruled.
I know, and it's going to be appealed from what I'm told. I'm giving a sneak preview. We do have a story on it in the paper tomorrow.
Perfect.
And I am told that it it could be appealed, and once the appeal is issued, there could be a stay on it until it's resolved at a higher level.
Good to know.
So, little sneak preview on the news. But yeah, the districting is that is it. Yeah, just personally, a quick aside, it's one of the most bizarre maps I've ever set eyes on. It's truly strange. So, going along with the districting theme, this is an interesting question. I'm not even sure it's doable, but from the on the commission on a county level, but let's throw it out there and see. Has anyone considered at-large commissioners to maintain an odd number of commissioners? They're saying this would allow for 2 commissioners to recuse if necessary or not be present and still be able to conduct business, and would allow the BOCC to look more like the residents it serves. Is that even a
Is the
feasibility?
question moving to a 5-member board of commissioners like a couple of counties have
This
recently
person
done?
does not mention that. This person is just saying, has the county considered adding at-large commissioners?
So in order to do that, we would have to change the county function from the commission form to a county council form. We would have to create a charter. It is a huge undertaking and huge process. A few years ago, I looked into it. And the amount of time and effort and money it takes to do that is enormous. And then you have to update. Then you've got your county council, and then you've got your commissioners that work on the charter commission. Clark County is the easiest one. I don't know of any small rural counties that have done it. It's all larger urban counties that have moved that direction.
And then I would also add, then you're looking at more of a county administrator that oversees all departments and operations and then speaks to the commissioners. So you're looking at a much bigger payroll. There's a couple counties that have just switched, but they are 1 million population counties. So no small counties have ever even thought about it or considered it as far as I know.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to that, Lori?
No, that's the same thing I found when I looked into it. It wasn't a fit for small counties because of our budgets, for sure.
Now, are we talking specifically about at-large commissioners or expanding the number at all?
So we cannot create at-large positions or anything else with the way that the state legislature has allowed counties to be formed without going to that county council form.
Okay.
So we are precluded by law from doing it.
That's not going to happen. Okay. I want to remind people as we come into the last 20 minutes or so of our time, please feel free to add some questions if you like. And once again, just a reminder, the off-topic items that cannot be addressed are the jail death, the inmate who was treated at KBH, and the appeal of the Snowden rezone. So,
and I would add that those are all because of pending litigation.
Thank you. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, can the commissioners address the WSU extension situation and where that stands? Are we getting a new director?
I can do that.
Go ahead.
We are. It's currently back in the hands of WSU. We have preserved the 4-H program as is with the employee Harley. She's done a great job for 4-H. It's really popular. And they sent forward, we kind of looked through the WSU program that we had, and we were kind of doubling up many times with representation for economic development and some other issues that we felt like maybe we could serve the county people in another way by choosing some other programs that might be interesting to the people and could help them out. So we sent back some of what we would like to add to our people. One of them was the Master Gardener program, which they did for years in our county. And then also some small farm assistance through soil sampling, ideas about what you could grow on a small farm, connections to the food to table programs, many of them which the Chamber of Commerce in Bingen is assisting with, the food trail program, which would encourage small farmers to be able to sell their products. So they're going to be very interesting programs. We've sent those back to WSU, and they're looking through them now and crafting a contract for us to look over.
Wow, very
Yes,
cool.
we're very close.
The key is that regardless of rumor on the streets, the WSU program or the 4-H program will be fully funded and operational, just like it was in the past. Just the 4-H coordinator will have a different leader.
Wow. Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, it's going to be a good deal.
Well, and hopefully it's a win, and hopefully it can grow. So, and we can get more. We keep shutting the lights off in Lori's office, I guess.
You know,
I'm around enough in my office. They're on motion sensors.
I need to
After
keep
6 o'clock.
waving my hands so they go. So if I sit
I'm
still,
nodding my head to keep my lights on.
I hope Public Works sees this.
One small bit I can add is it's been a long time since WSU has added staff. They're feeling the squeeze as well. So we may end up, rather than having a WSU coordinator here in the county extension agent, it may be a shared duties from WSU extension agents from other areas. So I don't want to throw any cold water on it. Hopefully they'll be able to hire someone that can, just work on Klickitat or counties, but they may not live here in the county, and we might not get the service levels and hands-on approach that we had before. So
I did let them know our preference was that they be homegrown, that they live here with us, and hopefully they can help us with that.
Yeah, but I would also add that the last one served 2 counties, so it wouldn't surprise me if the one they use also serves 2 counties.
Sure.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's another question just popped up, but I'm not sure to go down that path. But we're not talking about anything related to personnel and the county in regard to WSU, are we?
No.
The county used to have 1 employee as the office staff for WSU, but that was part of the conflict. So going forward, to keep the county safe, the county wants to make sure that county directors and county commissioners have control over county employees and not WSU staff having control over county employees.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, next question, and Jake will ask to start with you, please. This is, can we see more youth center dollars in the budget? A new building? Anything related to promoting a youth center in the county?
I think we were talking about the youth center in White Salmon. During COVID, we temporarily reduced those dollars to the youth center. Commissioner Zoller and I voted in the last budget to raise that back up to where it was. The mayor of White Salmon and the city council, along with all of our partners, are working very hard to try to get the youth center moved into a more appropriate location. The building that they are in, that WAGAP has had, is falling down, and it's been falling down since I was a kid. So it either needs just tore out or burned down or something, and we need to find a new place. We, the county, are not leading the charge, but our partners are, and I am in full support of moving forward with the youth center and finding a good place.
Okay. Would either of the other of you care to address that?
I have no issues with the youth center that is currently in White Salmon. I do want to add that I brought forward to this Board of Commissioners the opportunity to provide a youth center in Goldendale at Learning Ladder, and fund them with the same amount of dollars, which was 20,000, went down to 16 with the budget cut, and then back up to 20. And provide this side of the community of the county with the same amount of funding, and I could not get it through.
When was that?
Last budget.
Okay.
And
Lori?
I'd like to address that. Yeah, the youth center in White Salmon is functioning. Like Jake said, it's been functioning for years, and I have visited. It's a wonderful place, very busy. I don't know how the gals do it that run it. It's very full. It's an awesome after-school program for those kids, but they need a new building, and their location isn't great for kids either. It's close to the main street, a little concerning. A lot of watching to go on there. So to keep that one going, we needed to preserve their funding, and to stretch and divide the dollars between White Salmon and Goldendale would be doing a disservice to something that was already functioning. We could have undermined them and lost them too. So my goal is keep White Salmon functioning, keep those kids attended, hopefully move into planning for the new facility, but at the same time start looking at budget and things that could apply to Goldendale rather than diminishing White Salmon.
Right. I would like to clarify my ask to fund the Goldendale potential center did not remove any funding from White Salmon. It matched it.
Can I ask why you talked about Learning Ladder specifically? How did you imagine that working?
Because Learning Ladder already runs a, you might as well call it a childcare / youth center. And it is my understanding that it has a very high percentage of folding in the next year if it doesn't get some kind of subsidy to stay open, which is going to cause even more of a childcare problem in the Goldendale area.
Is there no issue with that being the fact that it's a church institution?
The question would have been brought to the prosecutor, but it is operated in a church, but it's operated by a different organization than the church.
It's not a offset or a extension of the church itself?
That was the question that would have been brought to the prosecutor for legal opinion.
Well, I mean, if I understood you correctly, you just said that it was operated by, it's at the church, but it's not by the church?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Okay. And it's a preschool, not a daycare, but yeah. Okay. Let's move on. We have about 15 minutes left. So somebody would like to go back to the Republic Services contract, and they're asking, is there flexibility to require Republic Services to improve recycling facilities at the BZ transfer station? Currently, the recycling bins are uncovered and material is placed there that gets rained on. He's, for example, cardboard, and he's been told that the bin then goes to the landfill. How much is actually being recycled?
You're
Anyone?
bundling up, Fred? You're bundling up?
We're not supposed to be having audio from anybody else, so.
No, I know who that is, but I don't have the ability to unmute, but it just got handled.
I
guess I can speak to your question. There is some concern in the county. There are rumors going around that recycling gets hauled straight to the dump and does not even see recycling anywhere. And I reached out to Republic Management less than a couple of months ago and asked them, you know, what percentage doesn't get recycled, because we've had an issue in the past with dirty waste. People fill a blue bag full of cardboard, and somewhere in that blue bag is a pizza box. Well, that pizza box has food items in it, and it's now contaminated the entire bag. That's how they look at recycling. So that's why the county's kind of downsized over the last few years what you can recycle, to try to get people to quit putting in dirty waste. If you're going to put in a soup can, it needs to be cleaned. You can't just put in a dirty Campbell soup can in there. It contaminates the bag. So Republic told me that very little of the waste that gets hauled up to, I believe it's Seattle from here, the recycling, actually comes back to the dump. They don't want it to come back from the dump because then they got to truck it both ways. They did say that every once in a while, like once every couple of years, the hydraulics of their truck will spring a leak and blow hydraulic fluid all over whatever the container is, soiling it, and then that has to go to the dump. But that is a very rare occurrence. And currently, they said that 99% of everything actually gets recycled accordingly. When I asked them if there was anything we needed to do to change our recycling program to make sure that it's cleaner waste and they wouldn't have any issues, they said it's operating perfectly right now. Everybody's doing a great job cleaning they're only putting in clean recycling, and everything's running great. So that's what I know from about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Okay. And this question specifically is addressing the BZ transfer station. Would either of the two of you, other of you care to address that?
I know that the BZ transfer station that recycle is not covered. If it was, under my impression, if it needed to be covered, to stop it from causing an issue, I would think that Republic would cover it. But as Commissioner Christopher said, the majority of all of those recycles are being recycled and sold and sent, away. If I think it was a couple of years ago, China stopped taking recycling, and so there was a while where they couldn't sell the recycling anywhere, and so some did get shipped back to the landfill until they found new outlets for those cardboards and everything that was being recycled.
Right, but we've also expanded with oil and household hazardous waste and working with other companies that Republic has acquired to be able to dispose of all the other things that you would have in your office. We just paid, I want to say it was about $12,000 to get rid of our unused hand sanitizer from COVID. We had shipping containers full of hand sanitizer that you just can't throw away and can't dispose of. So there's companies that are through the transfer station that the county does pay for household hazardous waste disposal of anything you do take to Republic. That's not in the contract.
Okay. Lori?
I think they've covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can reach out if there's a concern about the BZ station. We can reach out and ask that question to ensure that somebody checks it.
Okay. We have 10 minutes left. So this asks, with the loss of the county contract with the landfill that apparently definitely had a significant impact on the county's budget, does the BOCC know of any other potential contract losses that could be in the offing for 2024? And if so, what would be the potential loss to the county budget? Jake, you want to start with you?
Yeah, I'll talk about what happened. I'll let Commissioner Christopher talk about what could happen. We lost 3 contracts, and by we, I mean Republic, but it is a loss to Klickitat County. The first one, we lost Skagit County, and that was upwards of $600,000 a year that comes into the county coffers. We lost the Spokane contracts for the ash, and that was a significant amount of dollars. And then we also lost the Mason County contract. All total, those would equal about $1.5 million a year. We were bringing in about 9.2 to 9 point, so $1.5 million is a lot of waste. That impacts, operations. That impacts the county budget, road budget. It hits really hard, especially in high inflationary times. And I'll let my seatmates continue from here.
Lori?
One of the reasons too, I think it's changing. It isn't to just say it was a loss. The garbage situation is a competitive business, and Republic Services, like everybody, has a competitor. So when they're bidding for contracts at different counties, they're in a bidding situation against other garbage service companies. And so if a county chooses to go, when the contract's up, if they chooses to go with a different provider, then that impacts the money we have in because they lose their contract. One of the reasons we lost the ash and more service from Spokane area was Adams County, I believe, is the neighboring county to Spokane that built a landfill. So now we have a competitive landfill too in a more centrally located place. So we may look at, we're not sure which counties we'll choose and what will be offered by each people who decide they can truck it or ship it to that landfill rather than to us. So those contracts, they'll have to fight hard to keep those contracts in those areas too. So It's a shifting market.
Dan?
So this is where I would say that there are a couple of smaller contracts, not big dollar contracts, a couple 100,000 that we could lose in the coming couple of years. Yes.
Okay.
But Commissioner Zoller is correct. It's a shifting market. When the Roosevelt landfill was built, it was the only dog in the pony show. And now everybody's building their own, so it is far more competitive. Excuse me, and Republic needs to be competitive in those bids that happen every 10 or so years in order to stay competitive, which was one of the reasons why the county was asked by Republic to look at amending the contract and offering a reduced tipping fee, because for any of you that don't know, we get paid per ton. The county receives a tipping fee of which it's now about $4.65 a ton. For every ton that goes in from Seattle or wherever it's coming, we get $4.65, which, as Commissioner Anderson said, averages out to about $9.3 million a year. They wanted a reduced tipping fee so that they can be more competitive. And I was working on getting them to add a guarantee. Fine, we'll give you a tipping fee reduction, but we want a $9.1 or a $9.2 million guarantee. So if your rate ever comes below that, you cover the difference. That contract negotiation was stalled on a 2-to-1 vote and did not move forward, and we lost contracts.
For the reason that you were not able to, in your view, secure that additional clause, that additional stipulation?
They were willing to do the stipulation at 9.1 to 9.2. Commissioner Anderson was demanding 9.5, and we've never even received 9.5. So it kind of killed the negotiation. And then I was told we're not completing this, we're not negotiating anymore, end of discussion. So that's what I informed Republic.
Okay. Do either of you, the other two commissioners, have anything to say in regard to that point about potential losses in the year ahead?
Being that, all of these negotiations happen in executive session behind closed doors, this was a 2-year-long conversation that is getting very much simplified. And I don't think it's appropriate to continue to have that conversation. Moving forward, as we were saying, it is a competitive environment. Republic actually won one of the counties by price, but still the county chose to go with a different competitor, even though the Republic was the lowest responsible bidder. Because that's one of the few places in state law that you don't have to go with the lowest responsible bidder. The counties do have the ability to change. So there's a lot of pieces that go into those bids. And in the end, if we look back over the 30+ years of the contract with Republic and Republic's predecessors, you win some contracts, you lose some contracts. And so right now we're in a dip. But as Republic gets more hungry, they might become a little more competitive on their pricing, and we might pick up some contracts. Republic also could be going after not municipal solid waste contracts, but other contracts with private companies that have a much higher profit margin. So there's a lot of pieces that go into that that I just like to say we cannot simplify something that takes 2 years to negotiate.
Okay. Lori?
No, I'll agree with Mr. Anderson. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of responsibility on everyone's side. It's not only on the county to be the one that comes forward and give, that contract negotiation to give on their side. They have to come to the middle of the road sometimes too on the Republic side.
Okay. We have 2 minutes left, and I think the remaining questions, well, let me see if one looks like it could be shoehorned in here. I suspect not because of the complexity of the questions, but I did want to mention that a few questions came in which I did not bring up, but they were related to the theme of what I would collectively refer to as civility. They were related to concerns about what seems like bickering in the commission meetings and finger pointing. Somebody, anyway, I don't want to go down that path except to bring it to your attention. that it was raised by a few people in the meeting here tonight, and something perhaps that could be addressed in the remaining in the next such meeting. So we have a minute left. Any final 20-second comments from the three of you?
I guess I would just quickly respond to civility. I understand it. I see it. Unfortunately, when we debate, it sometimes gets into vigorous debate. And we're all alpha personalities, so I don't know that we're changing anybody's mind. So I honestly think how we get around that without having board rules is just having less debate.
Anybody else?
I think when you look at the founding of this country, there was a lot of vigorous debate. When you look at everything that has gone into what politics is, it is the noble art of compromise. And we do debate. We debate vigorously, and we don't always agree. There was the community and the county, the citizens of the county were very accustomed to, decades of everyone agreed on all things. And there was a contingent of the population that felt like they were not heard. I think you find with the vigorous debate that we have, we all are willing to look at the situation and sometimes play the devil's advocate because we want to find where is that truth and where is that common ground and where is that middle ground so that we can make a decision. I have no problem with split decisions. I have no problem being on the minority of a vote. I try to always respect my seatmates and respect their positions. And I hope that is where we continue to go. I think Commissioner Zoller is doing a great job as the chair this year and leading that and making sure that we continue to be civil with one another and more importantly with our constituents and the community. What we always ask and what I always ask is remember, we are human just like you are. And sometimes the people that are speaking to us are not very civil and not very kind and pointing fingers and making things very personal for their own political purposes. And we are humans too, and we have families that have to put up with this as well. I would ask that civility, especially going into an election season that we all know is going to be very ugly. I hope that we all think about civility and who we want to emulate and who we want to be.
Two-way street. Lori?
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. When I came into the position, I think I'd even talked to you, Lou, before about that, was bringing civility back to the Board of County Commissioners. I think we've came a long ways this year. I really feel like we've made a lot of progress, and I have some ideas and some structure and just some other ways that we might keep it in a professional level and stay very civil and become a more coordinated Board of County Commissioners as we're supposed to be, not individuals, but a board for that. That's what we're designed for by law. And so I look forward to working on that.
All three commissioners, I have a lot of respect for all three of you and appreciate your time tonight. And I'm sure that the people here have 55 people are still on. So thank you very much. And that's it. We're out of time.
Yeah, that was a good turnout. Hopefully we can do it again for you.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who signed in at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening to listen to the three of us.
We weren't sure if there would be 4 or 50 but that's a good number.
Yep.
And thank you very much to Lou for moderating and going through the questions and for asking all of the questions in a way that allows for a civil debate.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, all.
Agreed.
Thank you.